Rockstar, Ravage. Rockstar.
Oh, I've been waiting for this one. I have been waiting for this one. Everyone is probably aware because it's been beaten to death. Rockstar decided, instead of releasing GTA 5 for PS5 and Xbox Series X in November of 2021, they decided, no, we're going to delay those till 2022. But in place of that, we're going to give you guys a taste of some classics, some nostalgia. We are going to give you Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas as a triple pack remastered, call it a definitive edition, right? And release it in place of that to celebrate 20 years since Grand Theft Auto 3 came out on PlayStation 2. Now, I have a soft spot for Grand Theft Auto, as everyone else does. For me, GTA 3 was the first game that I ever got into a PlayStation 2. When I first ever saw a PlayStation 2 working, playing anything at the age of 13, that was the first game I saw. Yeah. That and WWF SmackDown Just Bring It. So it was that was the first game I saw, GTA 3. Then Vice City was the first one I owned. And San Andreas was the first one I bought with my own money because I was working an actual job as a 16-year-old. That's right, I was 16 playing GTA. Ooh, kill me.
I was 7.
Anyway, cut to the chase. They released these games. The first problem was that the games came out all buggy as shit. They didn't come out. There were so many things wrong with it. The graphics didn't impress everybody. The game came out, and then it was unavailable. I went looking for it on the PlayStation Store first. It just kept coming out saying this content's not available. So I thought, oh, maybe it's because I was just before the release date or something, but fuck knows what happened. Anyway, the next day, it was available. But then I'm reading all these reports before I could even buy the game. It went up on the PC for a day. People bought it, and then Rockstar Social Club went into maintenance, right? The Rockstar launcher. Then all these reports came out about missing bridges in San Andreas, the rain textures, Jesus Christ, the rain in GTA 3 and the other two games. The opening scene in GTA 3, if anyone, spoiler alert, if you haven't played it, you've been living under a rock. But the opening scene in GTA 3 is a prison transport scene over the Callahan Bridge in Liberty City. Now, they're going over the bridge, the rain's coming down, you literally can't see shit, right? Because all you see is these white lines coming down, right? White lines. They literally just put plastered white lines as rain, and it's got like a weird, like, chroma key effect. So, like, the rain was coming down, and there are some parts of the Callahan Bridge that were appearing in front of the rain, and it just looked like the rain was falling behind it. Like, it was like a transparent sort of like blend mask bullshit. God. Oh, it looked so bad, right? I played this on stream, and it gave my pros and cons about it. But the way Rockstar handled it was what everyone's problem was. So, you had these games coming out on the console versions, they ran like shit. It came out on PC, but then it was taken down. After Rockstar launch went offline for maintenance, it came back online for maintenance, but then they said they came back on after 3 days. Sorry, it was down for 3 days, which stopped anyone playing not just the Definitive Edition Trilogy. It stopped everyone playing Red Dead Redemption Online, Grand Theft Auto 5, Grand Theft Auto 4 if you had it on there. Any of the Rockstar titles that were there, you couldn't play them. The worst part about all of this is that they actually removed the original 3 versions of the game from any platform. You could not get them, except for iOS and Android, which I'll get to. But on PC, PS4, Xbox One, or Series X, or PS5, you couldn't get any of the original PS2 versions of the game anywhere. They were gone. I took them away because these were meant to replace them. They brought back the Rockstar launcher 3 days later, but then the 3 games still couldn't be played. And they put a tweet out saying, due to files that were unintended to be left in the game, we have to keep the game sound until we can remove the files. Now, a lot of speculation was, it's just, music they don't have the licenses for, they can just easily remove that. No, it was worse. They actually left the hot coffee mod from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas
Fuck off.
in the code. No, they did. They left the source code, and it was plastered all over Reddit that they actually left the sex minigame from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And the funny thing is, and this is the kicker, it gets even worse. After watching videos and following up on this whole story, it was the source code's been left in the mobile versions of the game and never removed. It was in the original games, and there was that big lawsuit that caused it to be removed or whatever, or updated and patched out. Even out of the PlayStation 4 re-releases as PS2 Arcade, they coded it out so they could patch it out so you couldn't access it. But the actual code in the iOS and Android games is still there. So if there's anyone out there that knows how to hack it, they can actually access it. They haven't removed it to this day. It's still sitting in there. And then on top of that, they left it in during the Definitive Edition release. You would think after the very first thing 17 years ago, you would think after the very first incident that cost them a bucket load of money, that they would actually remove the source code there and then from the original file. But they didn't do it. They left it in there. They just patched it out and went, oh yeah, I'm sure we're never going to need this.
Hurts.
So they left it in. People were absolutely shitting on this game. They were calling it as bad in the launch as Cyberpunk 2077. However, in my experience, and based on factual evidence, I'm here to tell you, people can react to this and say opposite as much as they want. This launch is not, and I repeat, definitely is not worse than Cyberpunk 2077.
You don't think so?
The reason why? No, I don't. The reasons I give, not all platforms of the game played up. Yes, they're not all platforms of the game played up all the time. Like, yes, there were frame rate issues on Nintendo Switch. Kind of expected. It's a fucking Nintendo Switch. But yes, it is a PlayStation 2 game, but they remastered it and heavier textures and added all this, and they did silly things like take the fog out, and you could see the entire scope of the level, and it was like, oh, all of a sudden the map's small. What the fuck? The problem with it is that everyone's expectations of this was that it was meant to be a remake. It was never, ever intended to be a remake. Rockstar made that very clear from the get-go. I'm not defending the practices they did. They wouldn't give refunds to the people that experienced... they were pretty shoddy about it in that sense. They weren't going to give refunds to the people who bought the game on PC and couldn't play it for 3 days. They didn't give any refunds to the people who are dissatisfied. They weren't going to give refunds to the people who were dissatisfied on PS4 and Xbox One, 5 and Series X. The games didn't actually not function. The PC version actually, for the most part, ran okay, because that's what I got it on. I got it on PC. Besides the texture issues and maybe a little bit of frame drops, the game never crashed. There was a coding error, which I put up in our Discord. There was a coding error where you actually had to change. I had to watch a video in German to figure that out.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I looked up on YouTube, and this guy in German's like, I don't know how to do a German accent. Heigen, Flagen, config, and I'm like, oh, he said config. I don't understand German, but he said config, so I'm going to go with that. That's not racist towards German people. I literally just didn't know what he was saying. But when I played the games on PC, they ran for the most part okay. There was some issues with the mechanics in certain games, like GTA had great driving mechanics but shitty shooting mechanics. Then Vice City had great shooting mechanics and shitty driving mechanics. Like, it's horrible to drive in that game. It still is. It hasn't changed. Yeah. Even with after the patches. But then you go to San Andreas, the driving's fine, the shooting's fine, but the graphics look like they haven't been touched. You might as well just go and play the fucking PS2 version at this point.
That makes me feel better, because I own San Andreas, the original one, on Steam, and I was kind of contemplating, like, do I buy the Definitive Edition? But now you've sold me. I'm not changing. Yeah.
Now, look, for those of you who haven't bought it, I would wait till it comes down. I bought it just as a bit of an experiment to see how it would go. I started playing... I've got all three on PS4, the original versions. And I started playing GTA 3, and I'm, like, most of the way through the second island. I'm actually probably further on the PC Definitive now. They have released patches, and they've got more patches coming. They fixed the rain. That's the fucking hallelujah bit. Yeah, they actually fixed the rain, and it doesn't look shit. It looks really nice. Like, if you look at all the games going across the board, GTA 3 looks like an absolute brilliant piece of work now compared to what it was back in its heyday.
Awesome.
But the thing is, right, everyone had these high expectations that it was going to be a remake. It never was. Or they expected, oh my god, this is a definitive edition. It doesn't look anything like GTA 5. It never was meant to look like GTA 5. Yeah. Rockstar said in the press release, we are going to update the textures and add modernize textures and make it a bit more fresh and bring it up to date with the look and resolutions and high fidelity, while maintaining the classic feel and nostalgia the game brought the people all those many years ago.
Yeah.
It specifically says that, right? Yes, modders have done a fantastic job over the years. Thank you, modders. I agree, Rockstar shouldn't have targeted them. Fine. At the same time, an argument could also be made that it's Rockstar's intellectual property, but then again, we wouldn't have roleplay servers if that was really such an issue. So clearly it isn't. There's obviously being picky. And again, there was a cash grab attempt here. I'm not going to deny that. Rockstar releasing this in place of the GTA 5, which is technically a cash grab anyway, for PS5 and Xbox Series X. Them releasing this is still a cash grab, just in a different form. And most of us idiots fell for it. At the end of the day, I don't think this is a worse launch than Cyberpunk 2077 because they actually tried to fix the issue a lot quicker than who made Cyberpunk?
CD Projekt Red.
Again? Thank you, CD Projekt Red. So they actually took longer. I actually looked it up when the first updates came out for GTA Definitive and Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk took, I think, 3 weeks longer for the first patches to come out. And even now to this day, I'm hearing that Cyberpunk is still having major issues.
Oh, yeah.
The problem with Cyberpunk is they made a game that was for next-gen consoles and expected today's hardware to run it. It wasn't made to do so.
Mm-hmm.
That was the problem. And the problem with GTA Definitive Edition was they rushed it. They didn't give it enough time. It should have baked in the oven a bit longer. And it has the potential to run seamlessly on any of this hardware because the original games did. And the fact that they rushed it and gave it to a mobile port team is pretty bad. I personally feel that Rockstar were definitely in the wrong for throwing Grove Street Games under the bus like that. Grove Street Games is like a team, like a minimal staff. There's only I think it's like 21 or there's not that many staff, 21 or 25 staff. And they threw the job to them, and then it turned out bad, and then Rockstar turned around and went, oh, that's not up to our standards, and we apologize, and this is definitely not what we expected for a game. It's like, but you own the subsidiary for the company.
Yeah.
Like,
you had to approve of it going live in this current state. They didn't just say, okay, we're done, and then just pushed it. You should have had to, but so many games fall to this. Like, I think the Batman Arkham Knight is the big one that comes to mind, just with big studios just paying tiny studios minimum amount of money to port this game, to put it on all these platforms. And it turns out like shit. And then they try to point the finger at someone else. It's like, you hired them. If I hired you, Rav, to edit a video for me, and you tell me, okay, that video is done, and I straight up and publish it, and then people say, oh, this thing was wrong, it's like, that's not your fault. Like, at the end of the day, that's not your fault. It's my fault for publishing it. I should have went over everything, double-checked everything that you've done, and if I had, let's say I found a bug or I found an issue, I come back to you and I say, hey, this is actually wrong. Can we fix this? So, yep, cool, no bother at all. Do it. Make sure it's functional. Make sure it is what it's meant to be. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And that was the thing. Its quality assurance just wasn't taken at this point. There was no quality assurance. There was no double checking of anything. Mm-hmm. And that did show on the initial release. But the difference is for the most part, the games are still playable. See, the Cyberpunk 2077 was not playable. People were saying it was not playable. There were people like, there was just shit going wrong with it. It was like lagging. It was slow. Things weren't rendering. Like, I saw clips of people trying to play it on PS4, and they'd be standing there with a gun or standing there in first person, and like 3 meters in front of them was still rendering.
Yeah.
Like, that's bad. Like, when a game does not even render in front of you, that's bad. Like, at least GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, yes, they had their moments. Yes, they had to adjust to 60 frames per second because all the games were never released like that, so everything moved faster. So adjusting to 60 frames per second, yes, if you jump out of a car that's going to explode, you don't have that much time to fucking run away with it. Run away from it, which makes sense. And yes, they've now fixed that in the patch, but other than those little things, it's not that the game was unplayable. Like, before the patch came out for GTA 3, I got up to Second Island and had no real issues with it, besides the fucking rain. That's literally it. Yeah. Besides the horrendous rain that I couldn't see through. And the gun mechanics in some instances, like, that was it. Like, I literally had no problem playing the game, and it felt just like playing the other version with slightly better things. And the radio worked fine. The story was still investing. You know, like, I've had, you know, obviously these people have obviously put more and more hours into it. Like, I never came across that bridge glitch. I've only seen it in videos in San Andreas, and now it's been fixed. Like, the bridge shows up and doesn't disappear anymore. So it's all been fixed, and a lot of the major issues have been done. Yes, there's some things they can do to tweak it and improve it to make it more definitive, but I don't buy into the bullshit that all these other YouTubers are coming out with, saying this is not a definitive edition because it doesn't look like GTA 5 or GTA 4 for that matter.
Yeah.
Like,
they're just looking for people to listen to them at that point. You know, they just want to be the negative guy just so they can jump on the bandwagon.
It's clout, and they should shut the fuck up.
Yeah, there you go.
That's where I'm going to leave that. Thank you.
I'm just going to keep this rolling for a minute.
Yeah. Thank you. Wait. Vote Ravage for president. Vote Ravage for minister, prime minister, president, and governor. Just enjoy the games for what they are and stop fucking whinging.
Exactly.
At least Rockstar may be shady at times, and it's proven. But at least they've now the last patch. You want to know how many bugs were in that, or how many bug fixes were in the last patch? 117.
Shit. Okay. Yeah.
You can't possibly tell me they're not at least making an effort to rectify it.
Yeah.
And they've now announced that anyone who purchases the game between now and I think May next year, they're bringing back free access to the 3 original games in case you still want to get them.
Oh, then, yeah. That's actually fucking absolutely great. Yeah.
So they're doing
at least you get the originals and the definitive with the one.
Yeah, you'll get the originals and the definitives for the price of the definitives now. So
right. No one can complain about that. Absolutely not a single person can. Right.
Maybe the hot coffee mod's still available.